You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun. We're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, welcome to another awesome episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul.
And I'm Rob. And this is episode number 406.
Welcome, Rob, to 400 and above.
Yes, welcome yourself, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's a beautiful day in Albuquerque. It's starting to get a little cool, which I dig.
I am all about it as well. I mean, it's actually raining here in the desert, so I'm liking it.
We've had some big rains.
It's been nice. Though.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm also glad it's raining, though, because there's been anti-GPS testing here, and a lot of people haven't been able to fly. They've been having a lot of problems. And frankly, you've got to be aware of those TFRs, guys. You have to be aware of what's going on out there. You know, we've seen a lot of problems. Even if you try to use your phone's navigation, you can see the effects.
So how did you find out about it? How would the average guy know about those issues?
I got an email direct from the FAA, and as soon as I got the email, I put it up on the Drone U page.
So anybody could go sign up to get those emails from the FAA, I would imagine?
I believe when you sign up for the IACRA site that you start getting FAA emails automatically. So
yeah, I would imagine there's some way to link up with the FAA and get notifications.
If not, you can always search your area, tfr.faa.gov. It's a great place to go. Again, that is tfr.faa.gov.
Yeah, you can definitely do that, but personally, I'd get the notifications registered for, just to be sure.
I think if you can't get them through there, you can get them through AOPA for sure. So if you're an AOPA member, you can definitely get them. But anyway, guys, welcome to the show. Really excited. I know I don't sound that excited. I'm just exhausted from working for this California class, leaving here in the morning very early for a nice 12-hour drive where I'll get to listen to some podcasts myself.
Nice.
Yes.
You're gonna do a review of some of our podcasts?
I tend to do that, but not more than I won't spend more than a half hour on it.
Yeah,
so
I don't blame you.
Just going through a couple episodes, you know.
Nice.
I really like to brush up on the business law and the business prospects and marketing and psychology. I'm really into, and I'm into a couple other books right now. That book Contagious, I want to finish that.
Yeah.
And it's 9 hours long, so it's perfect. So I'll be able to finish it for this drive.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear all about it when you get back.
It's all about viral marketing. But anyway, let's get right into today's question, which focuses on which states have individual drone law. Do they apply or not? What about the federal preemption? Well, we're going to talk about all of those things today, but let's hear it. This is, by the way, a really good question.
Yeah, well done.
But I'm glad that
Alex.
he, at the end, said, his question.
Yeah, we would have been lost had he not done that. So thank you, Alex, for clarifying.
I have a question. I want the truth. You want answers? You have to ask me nicely. I'm sorry. Thank you. We live in places not knowing the truth. I keep forgetting. I have a responsibility. I want laws in places we live. I have neither the time nor the luxury. Pick up laws in places you don't live in.
This is Alex Cooper from North Carolina. Hope you enjoyed that. What Jack Nicholson was trying to ask is about the different drone laws in different states. I know in North Carolina I have to pass a test to hold a permit and can't use thermal for search and rescue. Are there any particularly good or bad states for UAS laws, and what should I keep in mind when crossing borders? I love the podcast. Keep it coming, guys.
Glad he loves the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. Thank you for listening, and thank you for asking a question. Very, very cool.
Definitely. I will say, though, he definitely lives in, by far, the worst state for drones.
North Carolina?
Hands down, yes.
Really?
Yeah, they're the only state that have mandated some sort of permit required at a state level.
Wow.
Remember, there was that lawsuit against a guy who was arrested for flying a drone. There was the LA case, and there was the North Carolina case. So it's not a good area.
Why? And did he just say that it's illegal or you're not allowed to use infrared for search and rescue?
Yes.
I mean, what the heck is that?
Pure evil, I believe is what it's called. I think that is government having no idea what thermal is and then saying, hey guys, we like that you fly drones, but you can't look for missing people and make it easy. It's got to be really difficult, okay?
Yeah.
It's got to be really difficult. We don't want to find people and save their lives. We're not into that. That costs us money, guys.
I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, North Carolina government, what are you doing?
Wow, I would love to hear from the people that decided that and hear their reasoning.
I won't be going to the Outer Banks anymore, that's for sure.
Wow.
Especially when you couldn't fly a drone either. I'd be like, wait a minute, this is one of the most beautiful places on the East Coast. I can't fly here. Well, off to Charleston. Here we go. Mm-hmm. I'm kidding. North Carolina, you got some beautiful
It's a beautiful place. I mean, it's a great state in many respects. Drone law, not one of them.
No, the only memories I have from North Carolina are my dad taking me to Awful Arthur's and Kitty Hawk when I was a baby. That's a bar. Probably shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, we won't go. We're not going to put you on the couch today, Paul.
No, but let's talk about preemption because there is a challenge to the North Carolina law. But I do want to say we're going to have a link to every law for every state because simply there is not enough time in this podcast to really talk about each individual state, each individual law, each proposed bill because, again, it's a new year, so there are new bills going out there. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we could spend quite a bit on each state if we chose to do that. So I think we'd bore people.
Yes, I think we really would bore people. But one thing I want to talk about, again, the link is going to be in the description of the podcast. We will post this on Facebook for you with the link as well. But tell your friends if they're wondering about drone law in their state, this document will be what you need to get the answers you want.
Absolutely.
But anyway, preemption. Let's talk about this really quick. I'm going to read this straight out of the NCSL, which if you didn't know what that meant, neither did I, the National Conference of State Legislatures. So this is a report by them called Taking Off State Unmanned Aircraft
Should
Systems
be everybody's
Current
favorites.
Policies. Yes. Yes. I follow them on Twitter too, Rob.
I don't doubt it.
Anyway,
hey, we got to keep the people informed,
that's
Paul.
True.
So good job.
Yeah. So preemption. Before exploring specific topics states have legislated, it is important to consider the issue of preemption. If a state or local law directly conflicts with federal law, Rob, or federal regulations, the state or local law is likely to be invalidated simply because the FAA is the designated authority to regulate U.S. airspace. So any state law or local law that conflicts with FAA regulations or attempts to regulate in an area that is within the purview of the FAA may be preempted, meaning the rug will be pulled from the feet of the state.
An interesting word there, though, actually kind of shows up twice conceptually, is the word likely.
Yeah.
So it's not a definitive thing, so you still have to pay attention to the state law, and I'm not sure how you determine when it is preempted and when it's not.
Well, see, that's what it says. Examples of laws for which consultation with the FAA is recommended. Operational UAS restrictions on flight altitude, paths, operational bans, or any regulation of navigable airspace. For example, a city ordinance banning anyone from operating UAS within the city limits, within the airspace of the city, or within certain distances of the landmarks. AKA, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Albuquerque. Gosh, city parks. Brad Winter. I'm going to send you poo on a stick. Call it a corn dog, see if you fall for it. I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. All right. Mandating equipment or training for UAS related to aviation safety, such as geofencing, would likely be preempted. Courts have found that state regulation pertaining to mandatory training and equipment requirements related to aviation safety is not consistent with the federal regulatory framework.
All right.
So,
but in most cases, the federal law will preempt anything the state does, correct?
yes. So here are, though, some examples of laws within the state and local government police power. Laws traditionally related to state and local police power, including land use, zoning, privacy, trespassing, law enforcement operations, generally are not subject to federal regulation.
Privacy being a really big one in there, because I think a lot of states are going after that one.
Yep, and you're going to actually hear of, I want to read the California state law, but North Carolina and California are by far the worst places to live if you're a drone pilot.
Okay.
I think New Mexico is actually one of the best places to live.
Yeah.
We've got the Canadian national champion racer. We've got the U.S. national champion racer that live here. Drone U was here.
Well, say no more. Well, but we do have a lot of open space as well, and actually some really cool places to go fly and get video of. So no, it's a great state.
And I would say Colorado would be like the best place, but they've made it illegal for state parks, like to fly in state parks.
So in New Mexico, that's not true for state parks?
That's not true here.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's actually a really important way to answer his question, because state parks can obviously be some of the most interesting places to fly.
Mm-hmm.
So just by figuring out where state parks are not illegal to fly would be a great way to answer that question.
And sometimes it's difficult to find the law, so you may want to just go to the agency's website, because they normally have under like recent news, especially for drone stuff right now, you can find that.
And if you call like the state parks of your state, is there going to be somebody there generally that has the knowledge to answer that question? Seems like a crapshoot a little bit.
You know what? You couldn't have said it better. I was just going to give that example again of going to Lake Mead, and National Park Service said, "Oh, you can't fly drones here, but there's an airfield for your model aircraft." Remember that? Yeah. It was like, So anyway, what if I had just flown my drone at the model aircraft park? I don't know. Anyway, and that was one of the questions, by the way, in my presentation this morning. Someone was like, "Can you fly drones at national parks?" It's like, it's a temporary rule. The answer is no. We're hoping they change that. They haven't responded.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath, though.
I really hope they change that. You know what? If not, when I get really rich, I'm going to pay off every corrupt politician to make it legal to fly in state parks.
Did you just say that on
Hillary,
the podcast?
Hillary.
Oh, yeah, she's
sorry,
like, I'm in.
Sorry.
What do you got, Paul?
Yeah, she's like, that'll be at least $50
What can
million.
you offer me?
All right. Arkansas passed a law to include the use of unmanned aircraft for certain purposes within the offenses of a video voyeurism. Mississippi enacted a law in 25 prohibiting the peeping Tom activities committed with the use of a drone. Violators are guilty of a felony and may be sentenced up to 5 years in prison.
Wow.
That's awkward. All right. California's legislation. See, the sad part is you really hope that in these bills, like Vic would say, our aerial photography instructor, you've got to prove intent, because if you're just out there taking pictures and you're at a real estate job and, you take a picture here, and in the top left corner, there's another house, and someone just happens to be in their backyard,
right,
and they freak out on you. Everyone's dealt with a crazy before. If they can't prove intent, or you don't publish it online, or I feel like the intent, though, is so key.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to prove intent. Like, this guy was purposefully trying to spy on you and take pictures of you, even though the chances of that being true are 0 to 0.
No, you're right. I mean, that's the rule of law. However, we're dealing with human judges who have opinions, and I know that the vast majority of them work really hard to follow the law. But drone is a new environment that I think a lot of laws are still being established.
Well, I think it's also really important for people to understand how drones work and what's possible and what's not, what's capable and what's not. I feel like if judges knew that, it would be really helpful. And that's what they have expert witnesses for, but sometimes they can be really biased. So.
Sure. Okay, so we know, according to your thoughts here, Paul, that New Mexico, Colorado, both a couple of great states to fly in.
Yes, as long as you're not in a state park in Colorado, there's just some really cool places that you can fly.
Yeah, and of course all over New Mexico. Are there any other states that you know of that are horrible places to fly in?
Yeah, let me give you a few more examples here, Rob.
Sweet.
California's legislation made individuals who knowingly, here's intent, who knowingly entered the airspace above the land of another person without permission in order to take pictures or videos liable for physical invasion of privacy.
Mm-hmm. So again, back to the privacy thing, which is probably one of the biggest issues we're dealing with.
So if you live in California, you absolutely have to use Legal Flyer to fly over places. So that's good to know. My app still has a little bit of juice left in it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, man, I thought that was going to be a 2-year flopper. All right. Florida's bill prohibits using a drone with a camera to take photos of private property or a person on private property when the person has a reasonable expectation of privacy. Yeah, see, that's really interesting, though, because what about Google Maps? What's your reasonable expectation of privacy? Google Maps had posted scenes of murder scenes on docks. I don't know.
Inadvertently?
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, also, here's the thing. If I want to go, this is why privacy is really interesting. If I want to go on Google Maps right now and you don't have a garage, I can see the make and model of your vehicle, how many vehicles you have, and approximately how many people live there. Based on that information, if I wanted to rob you, I would just wait for a certain number of cars to be gone or use the information from Google Maps to do whatever I wanted to do. And I'm saying, is that a stretch? Sure, it's a stretch. But at the same time, what is a reasonable expectation of privacy? Because here's the thing, Rob. When you're in your house, I think you have a reasonable expectation of privacy. But you put clothes on, whether it's PJs, a t-shirt, or a polo, you're putting clothes on to go outside the house. So do you really have a reasonable expectation of privacy? You know, like...
Well, ultimately, it's a matter of, does the law say you have a reasonable...
Or the interpretation of the law therein.
Sure. But I think most would say you do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're reading.
The law allows the aggrieved individual in Florida to bring a civil action. Idaho's law is similar to Florida's, although it requires that the image is being collected for publishing or public distribution. See, I like that as well. Because,
nice clarification there.
You know, if they're like, oh, you took a photo of someone and they're naked, but you didn't put it online, it's fine, don't worry about it. You know, I think that's really, really cool. Well done, Idaho. All right. I'll go to Idaho now.
Okay, so maybe there's another one. Idaho.
Boise.
Idaho seems to use a little common sense.
Kansas enacted a law expanding the definition of harassment in the state's Protection and Stalking Act to include certain uses of drones near a home, vehicle, or other place where a person, again, has a reasonable expectation of privacy.
Well, and what drives me crazy about a lot of this information in terms of the laws are terms like certain uses. Because which uses?
Yeah,
in
that's
what
not
context?
defined.
And so without that definition, I suppose you better err on the side of being careful.
Yeah, definitely true. This is going to be a great podcast for all the people who are looking to travel with their drone. Like, I can just see the Facebook post now. Anyway, in Nevada, following passage of legislation in 2015, a property owner could actually sue for trespassing against a UAS operator who flies at a height of less than 250 feet over the property. If the operator has flown over the property before and the property owner has not notified the operator that the field is not authorized, or what?
Wow, so interesting. If they fly below 250 feet and they have flown over the property before and the property owner notified the operator that so basically they're saying you came and you flew over my property and I told you to stop and then you did it again and you went below 250 feet. How they're going to know that? I don't know. Maybe in the
flight logs.
Flight logs, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sending this to Anthony Cools right now. I think he's going to like that.
That's really, really interesting. So, yeah, I mean, the reality is if someone tells you, please don't fly over my property, well, then you shouldn't fly over their property.
Yeah, I agree. If someone's like, you know what, I would just prefer it not.
Yeah. I mean, be respectful. We all know that as an industry, as a community, we want to make sure that we're respecting people's privacy, particularly those that have specifically asked, please don't do this. Interesting, though, that 250 feet threshold, they haven't apparently considered the Z3 or other Zoom technology that's going to be...
You know what's funny? I remember sitting in the legislator's office in New Mexico, and the state legislator, and he goes, "Can you zoom on a drone?" I'm like, "No, the gimbal's way too shaky. It ain't happening." And then his assistant was like, "Well, could technology advance to have zoom?" I'm like, "Sure." Here we are, 1 year
I know.
later.
That's just how fast things happen. Of course, that's crazy. Anyways, all right. What else? North Carolina.
Hit me. Give me one.
North Carolina prohibits anyone from using UAS to conduct surveillance of a person. Okay. Without their consent, which is kind of funny. Can I get your consent to survey you?
Hey, can I survey you?
Can I watch you without you really knowing it? Can you give me your permission for that?
Thank you very much.
So obviously that kind of makes sense, I guess.
All right, here's Texas. I just got done working in Texas, and I thought I was going to really like Dallas, but I had fun with my friends, but Dallas was an interesting city, to say the least. The drivers got more aggressive the closer you got to the city. Anyway, Texas legislation passed a law in 2013, and Tennessee passed in 2014, prohibit the use of UAS to capture an image or privately owned property with the intent to conduct surveillance, making it a Class C misdemeanor.
So how you prove content or intent? I don't know. I suppose.
Did I say content?
No. I just misspoke, so that was me. So how you prove the intent, I don't know, other than maybe what the end product is and what they end up doing with it, perhaps.
Publishing it.
Yeah.
Posting it on
having somebody
sites.
having somebody use it for a purpose that would imply that it was some sort of surveillance.
See, here's another interesting part of intent. I don't know if you remember this, but about a year ago, a guy had posted a picture, an aerial photo of the Amsterdam area, and it was plastered all over malls and metro stations and everything, and ending up there was this naked woman on one of the rooftops.
Oh my.
What
was the naked woman doing on the rooftop? Maybe that's her
Clearly
business.
sunbathing, because in Europe, things are a little bit more lax over there, which I'm not going to give my opinion on that one, but good job, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, he didn't purposefully put the photo out there, but then again, like, is there intent if you put it out there, but you didn't edit it well enough and there was still a nudie girl on your photo that's supposed to be marketing a mall? So.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, did she sneak up there? Did she have permission to be up there? So many questions that would go into.
You just went down a rabbit hole, man. Like, there are a lot of questions for that. Like, wow, what if she didn't have permission to be there?
Yeah.
Then would it be okay? The plot thickens.
Yeah.
Wisconsin's 2014 legislation makes it a criminal offense to photograph, record, or otherwise observe another individual in a place where the individual has a reasonable expectation of privacy. A person who commits the offense is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you just got to respect everybody's privacy. That's the bottom line. Be very, very careful with that. I think it's common sense.
Yes.
It really is.
All right. For
cool.
hobbyists, let's just cover this really quick because I found something rather hilarious. I know Best Buy stock is doing well today, but it can't be because of this. Hobbyists are those who operate UAS for recreational purposes rather than for commercial or governmental purposes. Very few regulations, though, are in place regarding operation of UAS by hobbyists. As mentioned earlier, the FAA has set safety guidelines that operators are encouraged to follow, and all UAS operators must register with the FAA. That wasn't the funny part, because we all know the registration thing is being fought, and now supposedly you can't get a real N number for your drone anymore. Someone wrote that in one of the communities. I don't know if that's true or they just filled out the form wrong, but that's being said. Here's the funny part. Best Buy and the Academy of Model Aeronautics have partnered to provide in-store information to educate hobbyists about the importance of safety operating their UAS.
What?
What a
That's
joke.
not a bad thing.
What a joke.
I don't know why. Why is that a joke?
Because no one, A, reads it, B, no one follows the guidelines set forth by the AMA. There's no way for the AMA to really enforce them. And on top of that, the AMA, in the whole of the last 3 years have just bent over backwards.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I think on some level we can applaud different organizations for making an effort. You can't make somebody read it.
No.
But you can certainly put information out to try to help people understand how to be safe,
I'm going
how
to
to fly
contact
safely.
Best Buy tomorrow and be like, you need our don't crash course there, buddy.
Well, that's a whole different issue, and certainly I think we should check into that.
Hey, funny thing. Did you get the email the other day where this guy was like, hey, I just joined Drone U, and I noticed that your study guide was kind of similar to the FAA study guide. Did you see that email?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you responded to him. This is why Rob responds to customer service emails. He is so much better at them. I saw that and I wanted to write, well, did you notice that we did ours before the federal government ? But I didn't respond to that email. I know you did, and it was
Paul
a lot
is not
nicer.
our customer service department.
We wouldn't have customers to service if I was that guy.
That's all right. He's very passionate. He's very passionate.
Yeah. You know what? I'm also learning. I'm passionate, but I'm also learning. I'm young, and I've had to learn from other mentors and leaders to learn how to
Now
be
we're getting there.
Good.
It's all good. That's why we put a team together.
That's right.
Everybody has their roles.
That's right.
You fly the suckers.
That is so correct. Well, I think if you want to get more information state by state, make sure that you check out the link that is going to be in the description of this podcast. If you're in iTunes, you just got to tap the picture once and the description comes up and you can see it. It's also on the iTunes page itself on your computer or desktop.
Yeah, I mean, I hope people have had fun with this podcast. The reality is, Alex, that it's just there's too much to go into. It's too involved. I mean, it really kind of also depends on what you're looking to do in any given state. So, for example, I saw one here that really was interesting. In Mississippi, specifies that using a drone to commit peeping Tom activities is a felony, obviously. So hopefully none of you are trying to do that. But there was another one. Oh, New Hampshire, SB 222 prohibits the use of UAS for hunting, fishing, or trapping. So obviously if you wanted to use it for hunting, fishing, or trapping, well, then that wouldn't be the state for you. So it really depends on what your goal is in flying your drone and what the relevant state laws are for that purpose.
It's also illegal to use a drone in New Mexico for hunting.
Which makes sense. I mean, I could
yeah.
see that it's an advantage that...
Man, that would be so much fun. Sorry.
You're talking about... I assume we're talking about for... like scouting and so forth.
Well, yeah,
not
for scouting.
putting a gun on the drone, obviously.
No, but man, would that be fun too?
Oh gosh, no.
Well, people are like, oh, how could you ever say that? Weaponizing a drone, it's bad. I agree 100%. But obviously, you've never been to North Texas where you can rent a helicopter with machine style, like literally it's a helicopter gunship and you can go kill wild hogs. You know what I'm talking about. I've showed this to you before.
Yeah.
Literally, it's an R44 with a 50 caliber mounted on the side. If you could do that, like,
nuts.
What is the difference between the drone? Anyway, food for thought. I don't really believe in that. I never want to see drones weaponized ever for any reason. But I am saying that they weaponize helicopters and use them for shooting and hunting.
I can only imagine. Anyways, looking through this list of laws for particular states is really interesting, but it runs the gamut in terms of what a particular state chooses to regulate. So, yeah, I'm afraid you're going to have to get in there and look through all this stuff to figure out what interests you.
Well, I mean, in 2015, 45 states considered 168 different bills related to drones. So there's quite a few pieces of legislation to go through here. But the link will be posted. You can check it out. And if you want more cool information like this, don't forget to subscribe because we are passionate about drones and we are passionate about making your life easier and lowering your learning curve, even if I can't talk properly, which has been the case today. So thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have a question, go to askdroneu.com. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/droneu. And if you're ready to go to class from the couch and you want to learn about Part 107 from Certified Flight Instructors, you can live stream the class. That's this week. So make sure to check out droneUlive.com. That's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul.
I'm Rob.
This is Ask Drone U.